Well, I think it's important if we want to look at the oblate forest that we say where we are on this planet. And we're here in the mid-Mississippi River Valley on the bluffs that are about 300,000 years old. And on top of the bluffs are these oak and hickory forests, which we're concerned about. These trees have been here for about 10,000 years. The oblates have been on this land for about 60 years, calling it home to their novitiate and to their other religious programs. And through all this time, the rivers, the bluffs, the trees, all have been manifesting the presence of our Creator in a most beautiful way. When we do explore the link between our Creator and creation, between the Judeo-Christian tradition and ecological action, then we can see the need for caring for the forest. And when we do make this link, then all of us who are religious can feel challenged by the call to ecological conversion.
We're doing a continuous forest inventory, and that means we're putting in permanent plots to be remeasured year after year. And so that way we can see the changes in the forest over time. And so we're marking however many trees are found in a 5th acre. So that could be 10 trees, it could be 80 trees. And we multiply that out to get estimates for what the whole forest is doing.
We can look at Jesus' life and notice that the wilderness is really where he found a place for communion with God. For example, at the beginning of his ministry, he went to the wilderness to pray. And throughout his ministry, when he needed solitude and time alone, he went to the mountaintop or to the wilderness. And before his death, he went to the garden to pray. So Jesus really found communion with God in the wilderness. And that's important to us because we too find the presence of God in this beautiful place that we call Oblate Forest.
We know that there's about 170 acres of woodland here, and so we came up with a random sampling of those acres, and we're going to try to get a good representative sample of the trees that are out here. We want to know which trees are present. Do we have lots of white oaks or lots of black oaks? And we also want to know how many. So one of the questions we're asking is, if there's a lot of big trees of one species, say white oak, and a lot of trees of another species that are small, what does that mean for the future of the forest? Well, if the small trees are also white oaks, then we're going to have a white oak forest over time. But if the small trees are sugar maples,
this one is a sugar maple.
We're going to see a change in the forest over time. We're going to see it be oak dominated now, but transition to maple dominated. And there's certain consequences that are associated with that change. For example, oaks produce acorns, and lots of critters love acorns. They love deer, turkey, raccoons, they all love acorns, and even people can eat acorns too if you cook them and wash them right. But if the forest were to transition to maple dominated, we would not have those acorns to supply that food source for all those critters. So we would see cascading effects down the trophic systems and affecting the entire ecosystem of this forest.
In 2008, the Oblates issued a land ethics statement, and it also shows us why they have a concern for the forest. The statement says, "All creation is holy. It is the first manifestation of God's mystery. It is God's first word." Because the Oblates see creation as a revelation of divine presence, then it makes sense that we care for the forest. And we know that so many extinction of species, of life forms, and the destruction of ecosystems is caused by overuse and really by irresponsible exploitation.
You kind of have to look broader, look at the regional context and say, regionally, within the state or even just your county, what's going on? Are we seeing deforestation? Are we seeing high grading, which is where you take out all the good healthy trees and leave all the sickly and not so healthy trees? There's all sorts of issues within a forest region. And so you can look at some of those issues and say, well, how can I address those issues on my property? And if you're seeing that everywhere around you there's questionable practices going on, well, then maybe you can set your land aside and say, well, on my land, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to let nature take its course.
Protecting the forest is really an important part of the Oblates' commitment to justice and to the integrity of creation. Just as they're committed to justice for people, they're also committed to living justice and in right relationship with the whole earth community. Their sense of community is inclusive, and it embraces the soil, the land, the atmosphere, the ecosystems, all the things that sustain life and being.